Hey everyone, and welcome. If you're just starting your journey in psychology research, you're about to meet your new best friend, descriptive statistics. Today, we're going to break down this essential first tool in your toolkit and show you how to turn a whole mess of confusing numbers into a clear, compelling story. All right, let's just jump right in. Imagine you just asked 30 students to rate their stress levels during the first week of a stats class. This is what you get back. Right now, it's just a jumble of numbers, right? It doesn't really tell us anything. So, how do we take this chaos and turn it into something clear, something that actually helps us understand what's going on?
Well, our very first step is to find a single number that can kind of stand in for the whole group, a representative score. In the stats world, we call this finding the central tendency. It's like our anchor point for making sense of everything else.
Okay, the easiest one to get your head around is the mode. It's exactly what it sounds like. It is literally just the most common, most frequently occurring score in our entire data set. You can think of it as the most popular answer. So if we look back at our stress numbers and just count them up, the number 7 pops up more than any other number. So our mode is 7. That tells us the most frequent stress level students reported was a 7 out of 10. See? Simple as that. All right, next up we've got the median. Now this one isn't about popularity, it's all about position. The median is the literal middle-of-the-road score once we've lined up every single number in order. And figuring this one out, super straightforward. You just line up all the scores from the smallest to the largest and find the one that's sitting smack dab in the center. And hey, if you have an even number of scores, no worries. You just find the two in the middle and average them. So for our 30 students, once we arrange all those stress ratings, from that one student who put a 0 all the way up to the 10s, the value right in the middle is 7. This gives us a totally different kind of typical score, and the cool thing about it is that it's not really affected by those really high or really low numbers.
And finally, we get to the one you probably already know and love, the mean. This is just the good old-fashioned average. You add up every single score, then you divide by how many scores you have. You can think of it as the data's center of gravity, its balance point.
So for our data, if we take all 30 of those stress ratings and add them all up, we get a total of 193. Then we divide that by our 30 students, and bam, our mean is 6.43. Okay, so this is huge. Mean or median, which one do you use? It's all about picking the right tool for the job. Remember that one student who reported a stress level of 0? That's what we call an outlier, an extreme score. And that single number is powerful enough to pull the mean down from 7 to 6.43. But the median, it just sits there, stable at 7. It's resistant to those extremes, which makes it way better when your data is lopsided. Okay, so we've got our anchor point. But, a single number is just the beginning of the story, right? To really get the bigger picture, we need to zoom out and look at the data's overall shape, its distribution. Now, in a perfect world, our data might look something like this, a beautiful, symmetrical, bell-shaped curve. That's the classic normal distribution you've probably heard about. And when this happens, the mean, the median, and the mode are all the exact same number, right there at the peak. But let's be real. In psychology research, data is almost never perfect. A lot of the time, it's skewed. And all that means is that the scores are kind of piled up on one side of the graph, which creates a long tail on the other side. And this is so cool because the skew actually tells you a story. If you see a positive skew with that long tail pointing to the right, it might mean you gave a really hard test. Most people scored low. On the flip side, a negative skew could mean the test was way too easy, with almost everyone getting a high score. And then there's this other thing called kurtosis, which adds one more layer. It basically just tells us about the pointiness of our data. Is it really peaked, meaning everyone's scores are clustered super close together? Or is it kind of flat, meaning the scores are much more spread out? Now, why does any of this matter? Why are we talking about shapes and pointiness? Because a lot of the more advanced statistical tests you're going to learn about later on, well, they assume your data looks more or less normal. So checking for things like skewness and kurtosis is like a mandatory quality check before you move on. So check this out. This slide gives us some awesome simple rules of thumb. The software you use will spit out something called a z-score for skewness and kurtosis. And based on how many people are in your study, you can use this chart as a quick cheat sheet to see if your data is straying too far from normal.
And for a smaller group of people like our 30 students, there's another great tool called the Shapiro-Wilk test. All you need to know is this. If that test gives you a result, a p-value, that's super small, less than 0.05, that's a big red flag that your data probably isn't normal.
Okay, are you feeling a little overwhelmed by the rules and the tests? Take a deep breath, because I've got great news. Modern software, which is totally free by the way, like Jamovi and JASP, it does all of this heavy lifting for us.
I'm not kidding. Getting all of these numbers is literally just a few clicks. You open your data, you hit descriptives, you drag your variable over, and you just check off the little boxes for the stats you want to see. The software does everything else in less than a second.
And this right here, this is the most important takeaway of the whole thing. The goal is not for you to become a human calculator. The software handles that. Your real job, your skill as a researcher, is to be a story detector, to look at what the software gives you and understand what it's telling you about people.
So let's just take a step back and see what we did here. We started with this totally chaotic list of numbers. And now you know how to find a typical score, you know how to describe the overall shape of the data, you know how to start finding the story.
Look, getting this stuff down is a huge first step. It shows you that stats isn't this scary monster hiding in the closet. It's just a really practical, really powerful lens that helps us see the patterns in how people think, feel, and behave. So, you've got the tools now. You can officially look at a set of data and find the story hidden inside. So the question isn't if you can find these stories. It's what stories are you gonna go out and uncover?